Okay, so I was supposed to do this video yesterday, but I ended up passing out on the couch last night and that did not get done. So it's already 6 o'clock here in the morning. Figured might as well do this right now. This is your first time? No, your second time playing in the past 2 weeks because you're away on vacation. I was actually expecting you to kind of forget a lot of the things that you're supposed to be doing just because you hadn't played in like a couple weeks. But for the most part, you did what you're supposed to do, but there are definitely things that you need to improve on. Like one of the main things for sure is you need to tone down on your SG cast because you're casting way too many SGs when you should be casting more gravity fields. I know in the last video I said I might switch you over to the SG support build that I ran, but the thing is, we're not in cross server yet, and I haven't really made that decision if I'm actually gonna fully switch you over to SG or not. So right now, just focus on keeping your gravity fields. If you're gonna cast SG, just throw one out, and then at least 2 or 3 gravity fields before you try to cast another Storm Gust. I mean, I know I told you in the last video, or I don't know if it was the last video or maybe it was like GE from like two weeks ago or something, but I mainly just need you to cast SG for when they're pushing into us, right? So they start pushing heavy into our stack. Because that's to try to slow down their push. Or, if we're trying to push into them, I want the SG on that front line to kind of disrupt their casters while we try to push gravity fields forward. But other than that, there's no reason to, like, you'll see later on in the video, like, you're spamming SG on an ADL sniper, right? But we'll get to that later on once we get there. I mean, at least you remember to put your AoEs here on the outer circle between us and kind of where the enemies would be at to try to zone them out from trying to get the mobs, which is cast SG here or grav field. That's fine. You end up casting another Storm Gust, which you should have just put a gravity field here because they're already zoned out. They're not pushing forward trying to get the mobs, so you could have just put another gravity field right here because we want to kill these mobs as quickly as possible and then start trying to push them over to that top side E2. So the faster we can clear the mobs, the better, and then the sooner we can start pushing. The attackers do move over here, so I mean, you switching your focus over here is fine, but the AoE you should have been throwing AoEs up here. And then this guy right here is gonna kind of rotate around and try to flank. The thing is, he's a paladin. You're gonna see once his character renders. He's actually a paladin. And he's not even running the sacrifice build. I think he's just there. He's like rapid smiting or just bashing or something. So the thing is, like, he's single target damage. He's using, pointless skills. So he's not really dealing any damage to us over here, right? So there's no reason to even focus him. I mean, it's not even your job as an AoE to focus on the people diving in our stack. Because we have melee players here to deal with that. Melee and single target like ADLs to deal with people like this. Right? I only told you like for not for Guild League, right? I told you to Storm Gust on us, like when you see people on me. Because typically when there's people diving on me, we don't have any melee players around to deal with that. It's just our party, which is mostly AoEs. And if we don't have any single target DPS to focus on say it's a dual dagger assassin just smacking me, right? If we don't have the melee DPS to deal with that, then I just need you to cast an SG so then I can reposition and get away. Other than that, I mean, for you know, for 40v40, for especially for WoW, your focus should not be on the people in our stack, it should always be on the enemies on the front line. Because your job as an AoE is to push the enemy back and create like that AoE defensive line so they can't push into us, right? Because if say we're defending at a choke point in WoW, if all of our AoEs start chasing after or focusing on the melees in our stack, right? Now we don't have that defensive line on the front, and then the enemy can just easily push into us because now we don't have AoEs that they gotta go through. Here your AoEs could have been out a little bit more. Like I'm actually, I think, can't see here, but I actually started standing right here because I'm kind of just watching both sides. Also, yeah, that's another thing. You need to switch your camera because right now it's at 3D and you have it a little tilted too far forward. So we're seeing mostly, like we're seeing most of the ground, right? We don't really, if you kind of pulled it back a little bit, we'd see a little bit more of the enemies over here. But for right now, like all I see is mostly, like I'm just mostly looking at the ground, right? Like I don't really get too much information about the enemies because we just can't see them too well. Same thing here. You see there's that's that same paladin, right? He's just there as distraction. Like your AoEs, if anything, should have been over here. Because these people are trying to push down. I mean, same thing like your. So this one right here, you're just like you're positioning. You're a little too far back. You should be kind of in the middle. Because like I told you, stand. Because we have an issue with you either being too far forward, and now you're, sometimes you're just too far back like this. Like I'm over here in the middle of the stack. You should have been. I mean, I don't want to make you auto follow me, but you should have been kind of right here in the middle of the stack, and then throwing AoEs deeper on the front line right here. Because this is, like you can see, they're trying to push into us right here. SG, try to slow their push a little bit, that's fine. And then you need it to start stacking gravities. Right now, we don't have like assigned focus for our AoEs, so our AoEs are kind of just all over the place. We also are missing one party, so that's also at least one AoE that we're missing over here. So we start to get pushed back. I think, yeah, most of the enemies are coming from right here, but our AoEs are mostly right here. I think, so I already sent Mizwa's party to go get the other mobs. I actually wanted us to keep pushing forward here so we can try to secure the area and try to steal the Ifrit that spawns, but I don't know, like we cast AoEs instead of pushing forward, we're moving back. The thing is, like, they don't have many AoEs from Star. Like, even before this match, right, I was looking at their team comp the other day, just kind of looking at the scores from previous guild leagues, and the thing is, like, they have a lot of single target damage on Star. And that's both for map 1 and map 2, which is kind of surprising. Because I was expecting them to at least have some wizards. At least here on map 2, but even on map 2, most of their DPS and kills come from single targets. So like Lord Knights are ADLs. But we're casting AoEs and then we're just moving backwards for some reason instead of trying to hold ground. Another thing, try to rotate your camera because you could have saw that there's at least one party right here, and most of our AoEs are right here right now, but we don't have any AoEs on this side. I mean, you could have just, if you were gonna cast SG, you could have put SG right here and then start stacking your gravity fields. But I don't know, you didn't cast anything right there. Maybe you just lagged. So like I said in the last video, when you die, don't stop don't stop looking at what's happening on the screen. You gotta analyze, try to make decisions. Like, if I get res right here, what am I gonna do? So you can see you get res right here. You move back, but then you should have dropped an SG, but you didn't end up casting anything. You just ended up dying right here. It's it's about three parties that are pushing right here. You could have used an SG right there. I should have just called this back instead of trying to force us to push forward and try to steal that Ifrit. I should have just had us regroup back at top mid and just wait for Mizpa's party to take this top right and then have them regroup with us at top mid. And so the issue I have right here with top mid, the top right teams pushing the top mid, is our AoEs aren't focused on where they should be. Right? And you can see right here, I left because I was right here, and then I just end up leaving. The reason why I left is because there's only one party right here, and I already know, like I could see that most of the star enemies are actually above our stairs. So I rotated over to the stairs because I don't want them to push down. And unfortunately, you guys here, you're not pushing your AoEs towards the stairs. You're kind of just focused on this one party over here. The thing is, like, this party over here, it's mostly ADLs and Lord Knights. So a lot of useless classes right here. But our AoEs are like, they're slowly trying to push onto the enemy right here rather than try to push towards the enemy stack that's above the stairs. Actually, you're gonna see, you guys, the AoEs here start to get pushed back by single target DPS, which is kind of shocking, right? When there's the ADL, you're trying to CC him. So I mean, there's like, alright, you shouldn't have focused your AoEs on there. Actually, your AoE should have been focused over here because you're trying to push it towards the top of the stairs. But our AoEs, they're focused on like these single attackers that are over here on this side rather than pushing it towards the stairs. I think this is where you guys start to get pushed back by 2 DPS. Like you see, it's just the Whitesmith. And for some reason, you guys are pushing backwards instead of just holding ground. I mean, it's just the Whitesmith. I mean, you guys are wizards too. Like, you can just safety wall. And like, that Whitesmith is completely useless. Same thing with the LK right here. You can just safety wall yourself, and he's useless as well. So there's no reason for the AoEs right here specifically to... One, you guys shouldn't be focusing on the single target DPS right here. And two, you shouldn't be getting pushed back by these 2 melee players either. But you guys end up getting pushed back. You eventually do kind of get here. You can see like most of their stack was right there. The AoEs needed to be pushed over here. Unfortunately, that doesn't really happen. And then you guys actually get pushed back again by another party. It's just one party. And the thing is, it's like 3 ADLs, or 2 ADLs, and then 2 Lord Knights. And you guys get pushed back again. And like, you guys shouldn't you shouldn't be getting pushed back like that against that type of team comp. Especially when we have... So most of our party was here. I mean, Kaylor was the only one that rotated over when I called for it. Because let's go back to when I said... So when I said this, right, I could see on the minimap that you guys were stuck on this side, but I didn't know how many enemies were over here between the top stairs and then where you guys were standing. So instead of having you guys try to just run straight through and possibly dying, I told you guys to kind of just go through the long way. I did say go mid. Maybe I should have just said go through right stairs and then regroup at top stairs. But the reason why I wanted you guys to go to the top stairs is because we don't have any AoEs on that side to push the enemy back. We just had one AoE. I mean, he was doing okay at just holding it, but we can't push with just one AoE and a bunch of single target DPS. Right? Like in WoW, you don't push through a choke point with... That's okay, so like look at against Bread Society, right? Their only DPS back then was just Helios. Everybody else was single target. They struggled so hard pushing against us because they literally just have one AoE. Everybody else is single target. That's easy to defend against, and at a choke point. So same thing over there. We can't push up because we only have one AoE, and the rest of our AoEs are actually on this side, kind of just instead of focusing on the enemy stack, they're focusing on like the single target DPS over here. That's why, you know, I wanted you guys to rotate over to the stairs so we can try to push up. But I mean, yeah, like I said, you guys get pushed back here. I just end up leaving the stairs and just regrouping with you guys here because I was also kind of confused, like, why can't we push? Like, why isn't this side pushing up? Especially when most of our AoEs are on the side. And it's, you know, looking at your video, I can see it's because the AoEs are focusing on all of the single target damage over here. So here we're finally starting to slowly push up. I mean, I think our pushes could be a lot more faster because right now our AoEs are, the placement's not as aggressive and deep as it should be. So I mean, we could have pushed faster here. You know, one SG and then mostly gravity fields here. But I think you're mostly casting Stormgust. So when you see like attackers like this go off to the side, don't focus your AoEs on them. Focus, like, it should be up here or over here where most of the enemies are at. Because if anything, like, if once it shows who's here, you're gonna see it's just an ADL, and then there's like a Devo, you know, a paladin devoing him. It's a whitesmith here, but we all have, you know, we have single target DPS to deal with the people there. I think so. This is where, you know, we're slowly starting to push, and then I start to, you know, I end up calling for the people at top mid to keep pushing towards that top left mob. And you know, for this whole push right here, our AoEs are, they're too slow, right? They're too far back. Like, you see, I'm up here on the front line. We'll switch to my point of view later, but you'll see like I'm really far up, and the rest of our AoEs, the rest of our stack is back here when they're supposed to be up here. So that means there are two or three attackers right here. The thing is, like, our stack, right? Our AoEs, I mean, specifically. Drop an AoE here and then continue to push up. Because you can see up here, this is where the AoEs are supposed to be focused. Because I said push all the way to the top left mob. But everybody, our AoEs are still slacking back here. You can see like there's a wizard that's half a screen back from where I'm at. And their AoEs is right here. The single target DPS can deal with the two defenders, I mean the two star players right here. Right? And the rest of the AoEs should be focused over here. I mean, this isn't just you, this is all the AoEs on this side, and I mean, that's something I even said in the last video, our AoEs are a little too far back. They need to be more aggressive, they need to play a little bit further up on the front line, place AoEs more forward on the front line, be more aggressive with their pushes. Woe is out, and you know, assuming it's not bugged on Sunday, hopefully, you know, we do have Woe, because Woe would be a good practice for our AoEs to learn how to push aggressively. Because I mean, these matches like GE, this one, it's only about like 8-10 minutes, so it's pretty short. At least with Woe, it's 1 whole hour. So that's 1 whole hour of practice for AoEs to learn how to like defend a push or to actually push aggressively against the guild or again through a choke point. So I'm hoping that, you know, with Woe coming out, the AoEs will learn how to do that. At least the top side AoEs. I'm not sure how mid and bottom side do, but from what I've seen on the top side, like, it's just the AoEs are just not as aggressive and focused on the front as they should be. And then so here, you know, we're just I already sent Flex 1 and 2 to deal with these attackers. I told our party and Mizpa's party to just focus on the choke point because, you know, our parties have the most AoEs, and so that's our job to guard this choke point so the enemy can't just leak through. Sure, we have defenders here. I mean, attackers right here. But like I said earlier in the video, your focus shouldn't be on these people because we have single target DPS to deal with that. And that's their job to deal with these people in our stack. Your AoEs need to keep going into the choke point because that's, you know, that's your whole purpose is to defend this choke point. So, I mean, the main thing for this from this video, right, is just your positioning. You're a little too far back in this one. I mean, I know you don't want to be on the front line and die, but like we'll switch to my point of view for when we push up. So you can see there's also another thing you need to do. You need to constantly kind of pan your camera angle left and right. So then you can you can see where the enemy's at. And that's going to give you information of, you know, okay, so their stacks, they're mostly grouped up right here. Next thing you need to do is, okay, is there any AoEs on the ground on this side? You can see there's no AoEs, so you can easily just go straight up and drop a deep AoE onto them. So here, I'm not sure if I already told for top mid to push, but I mean, I'm putting in sync here because we're supposed to be pushing forward. And this is where the front of the stack should have been. But you can see like the attackers are over here. And then we have a lot of our AoE or the rest of the stack just further back for some reason. So I mean, just pay attention to my positioning here because with how I'm positioned, it's kind of like I'm playing like I'm still playing a wizard, right? So right here, AoE's right here, push up, and start push up. You can see there's some enemies right here. You could have gambiting. I'm not sure if this is their sync or ours, but you could have gambiting that. So AoE right here, and then push up again. There's no reason to drop another AoE because you can just leave that, like these attackers right here, to be cleaned up by the melee that's in the stack. So, you know, drop your AoE, you push up here, and then you drop another AoE again right here. But you can see like our AoEs, everybody's still kind of just further back right here. Like you saw where I casted that sync. That's where the stack's supposed to have been. At least the AoEs, that's where they're supposed to have been standing. And casting AoEs onto the enemies and the mobs over here. I even had to tell them like keep pushing up because for some reason our push is like very slow. But you can see like that whole push. We'll look at it again real quick. There's no AoEs from the enemy. Right? There's literally no AoEs here. I mean, also, I know you don't want to take damage and die, but this is like I said in that, I think it was the first video, you need to analyze like our stack, their stack. You can see like we're easily outnumbering them and they're retreating. So that should tell you right away, like you need to go aggressive. You can see there's no AoEs, then like you don't have to worry about taking damage. If you did have to go through some AoEs and take damage, it's fine because like I'm following right behind you guys, right? So I can just spam heal on you. If you die, then I'll just quickly res you. So you don't have to worry about like being too aggressive and dying right here. Like that's what I want you to do. If you die, then it's fine. Now, if they were pushing onto us and you're still playing aggressive on the front line and not moving back, then yeah, that's where it's the situation where you're supposed to be passive and start moving back and not lingering on the front line or trying to push forward. But other than that, I mean, that's the main things you need to focus on for next game. Tone down your SG cast, work better on your AoE placements. It shouldn't be on single target DPS that's in our stack. It should always, you should always be focusing on the front line and wherever the enemy has most of their attackers standing. And then for aggressive pushing, I mean, we'll see if woe actually happens. I think for first woe, I mean, should get perfect defense, no problem. Probably after, just go attack different castles. So that would give you an opportunity to try to work on, pushing aggressively with your AoEs. And then cross server actually starts next week. Next week, Tuesday. So we'll see who we fight for our first match, and then same thing, we'll use your video, but the main thing is you gotta switch it from 3D to 2.5D, so that way you don't end up putting your camera angle too far downward and like we're just staring at the ground, because then we can't really see anything if we're just staring at the ground, right? So remember to do that for next game.